Opening a coffee shop without understanding your finances is like pulling the perfect shot of espresso straight into a leaky cup. No matter how good it is, if you're bleeding money, it's only a matter of time before you run out. Not to mention, you get coffee all over you, and no one wants that. I've seen it happen too many times. A cafe opens with an amazing concept, great coffee, loyal customers, and yet a year later, they're gone. Why? Because passion doesn't pay the bills, and a steady line out the door means nothing if your numbers don't add up. If you want your coffee shop to survive and actually make money, you need to understand the financial side of business, the profit and loss or the P&L, even if you hate dealing with numbers. And here's a quick disclaimer, this isn't financial advice, just real world experience. I'm going to break down the P&L so it actually makes sense. No finance degree required. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what every line item means, how to find hidden leaks in your expenses, and most importantly, how to actually make your coffee shop profitable. So let's dive in. First, let's break down what is a profit and loss statement. Think of your P&L statement like a scoreboard for your business. It tells you how much money is coming in, revenue, how much is going out, expenses. The P&L is usually broken down into 5 main sections: revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, expenses, and finally net income. This is going to tell you if you made your profit or loss. So let's break down the P&L line by line. First thing you'll see is revenue. This is where we track all the money coming into the business. Total revenue includes everything: coffee, pastries, merch, catering, and even those pastry upsells. Now keep in mind tax and any discounts or comps will impact your total revenue. So don't forget to account for those things. Here's a little tip to help drive revenue higher. Increase your average ticket price. In my coffee shop, the staff were trained to always suggest a menu item or upsell that made sense at the checkout. It's all about the delivery and the thoughtful suggestion. Make sure the item suggested complements the item already being purchased and the time of day. For example, pastries or an egg sandwich are great with a coffee in the morning, but in the afternoon, a nice cake or cookie may be a more suitable offer. Next up is cost of goods sold, or COGS if you want to sound fancy. This is the cost of what you're selling. Coffee beans, milk, syrups, cups, lids, anything that goes directly into making your products. Now, there are many different factors that can affect your cost of goods. And from my experience, waste is a big one. Imagine you're training a new barista, they're learning how to steam milk for lattes, but they consistently overpour into the milk pitcher. They steam the full amount, pour what's needed into the cup, and then dump the leftover milk down the drain, over and over again, all day long. Now, it might seem like just a small thing, a few ounces of milk here and there, but over time it all adds up. Wastage isn't just physical, it's profit leakage. A well-managed P&L helps you spot these tiny leaks before they turn into financial floods. Then you have gross profit, which is the money your coffee shop makes from sales after subtracting the cost of goods. Let's say you sell a latte for $5. If the cost of the beans, milk, and the cup is say $1.50, then your gross profit will be $3.50. But here's the catch. Gross profit isn't the money you get to take home. You're still going to pay for rent, staff, and everything else. Those are your expenses, which I'll explain shortly. Let's talk about gross profit margin. Basically, how much money you're actually keeping from every sale after covering the costs of making the product. A good rule of thumb, aim for about 70% gross profit margin. Let's break that down with our trusty latte example. So, you sell a latte for $5, it costs you $1.50 in coffee, milk, and the cup. That leaves you with $3.50 in gross profit. To get the gross profit margin, you divide that $3.50 by the sale price, $5. That will give you 70%. Nice. But is that good for every item? Not always. You need to look at 2 things. You need to look at in-house items, like drinks you made from scratch, or outsourced items, like pre-made pastries you buy and resell. And here's a pro tip. aim for at least 70% of your products to be made in-house. Why? Because in-house items often have a better profit margin. Here's a quick rule of thumb to follow. For in-house items, aim for 75% profit margin, and for outsourced items, aim for around 60% profit margin. You might ask, why the difference? Well, outsourced items may cost more to buy, but they save on labor because you're not making them from scratch. Now, figuring out the cost of each item, it's going to take time, especially with the custom drinks, but it is absolutely necessary. You'll probably find that a simple espresso shot will have a better profit margin than a latte, and that's because it uses fewer ingredients and a little bit less labor. What if your margins aren't adding up? Well, you could try renegotiating prices with your suppliers, or buy in bulk to get discounts, or you know what, maybe even roasting your own beans if that makes sense for your business. And if you've tried everything and you still can't hit your targets, then I would suggest raise prices slightly on low profit items, maybe remove underperforming products from your menu, or get creative with new, more profitable in-house recipes. In my experience, if an item is a customer favorite but not super profitable, a small price increase usually works. Sure, you might get the occasional side eye, but most people understand, especially if the quality stays top notch. Next on the P&L are those dreaded expenses. These are your fixed and variable expenses that need to be carefully managed. These include things like rent and utilities, your lease, electricity, water, and Wi-Fi, labor costs, payroll for baristas, kitchen staff, managers, marketing and advertising, social media ads, flyers, loyalty programs, repair and maintenance, equipment upkeep. Don't forget, espresso machines, they need love too. And then you might have miscellaneous expenses such as insurance costs, software subscriptions, office supplies. The big one here is rent. If rent is eating up more than 10% of your revenue, it's a huge red flag. This is where your market and location research, as well as hiring a good lawyer while negotiating the lease, becomes so important. As a rule of thumb, payroll should be kept under 30% of sales. Overstaffing can kill profits, but understaffing can hurt service quality. I found that cross-training my baristas to handle a range of tasks from the register to making drinks on the espresso machine made scheduling way more efficient and helped me cut back on unnecessary labor costs. Also, using an online scheduling tool or POS will help with daily sales monitoring, enabling you to make shift changes in real time if necessary. As an example, if it's an unusually slow day at the shop, sometimes asking a staff member to end their shift early will save you thousands of dollars in labor costs over the year. At the bottom of your P&L, after all the revenue has been counted and all the expenses have been deducted, you'll find your net income. This is what actually matters. It's your true profit or loss. Think of net income as your final sip of coffee at the end of the day. Is it rich and rewarding, or is it disappointingly bitter because you ran out of money? Your net income is gross profit less the expenses and taxes. For example, let's say you started with $30,000 in revenue. After subtracting $10,000 in cost of goods sold, you have $20,000 in gross profit. Then you subtract $15,000 in operating expenses, rent, payroll, utilities, etc., leaving you with $5,000 in net income. If taxes take another $1,000, your final profit is $4,000. And here's a pro tip. You should aim for a net margin of at least 10 to 15% in the coffee shop industry. If you're consistently below 10%, it's time to rethink your pricing, cut unnecessary costs, or optimize your operations. If your net income isn't where it needs to be though, don't panic. But do not ignore it either. Running a coffee shop isn't just about passion, it's also about numbers. Understanding your profit and loss statement gives you control over your business and helps you spot leaks in expenses and ensures you're actually making money. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, or drop a comment below with your biggest financial challenge. I would love to help. And if you really want to maximize your coffee shop's profitability, check out my next video on coffee shop marketing strategies next, because even the best P&L won't save a business if no one knows about it. Now, go and make some profitable coffee.